Yeah, so we had Carl and CJ on the last two episodes, kind of giving their rendition of how the company started. Now, I want people to kind of get an update in terms of how you've transitioned the business and the brand through a pandemic, but you also started the company really during the recession in a way. So give us your rendition, or your kind of breeding ground and story from going from Bell Tower Ministries, Oakwood University, to now saying, okay, we're going to go from me to we with a team, a company, a brand, and launching this whole thing.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Oakwood Bell Tower was definitely, me, Irv, Trey. It was about 12 of us. You know, those were the similarities. But I think the difference between, Bell Tower and then the first recession that we did our work from in this is the assessment. And I think Carl and I started TGIM. And in that process, bro, it was just kind of like I said, it's like you just shooting in the air and you're hoping you hit something. And again, don't get me wrong, you could tell from TGIM we did hit some stuff. But if you look, guys, closely at how we started, and then you begin to look at how we transition, you'll see that a lot of it was just guessing games. It was like, well, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this term. You're kind of young, but on the job training.
Hmm.
That's what it was in the beginning. It was on the job training. It was kind of like, okay, we have an idea, and then we go. Like, we didn't have a plan, if that makes sense. We kind of had ideas. We kind of saw the big picture, and then from the big picture, we kind of made our moves. But when you look at this recession, you look at ET, I'm way more intentional and deliberate, way more strategic. It's like, okay, in this recession, we're literally giving the people a sense of direction. Like it's like, okay, we got a pandemic going on, people all over the place. We're divided as a nation. So people need to learn how to make better decisions. Right. And so it's like, okay, people are making decisions because of what, and I don't know if this is a word, but COVID-19 fatigue, you know what I'm saying? Or being stuck in the house fatigue. Like, people are finally getting to the point where it's like, yo, we thought this was going to be over in 30 days, 60 days. So really giving people an opportunity to say, okay, what should I be doing? So we literally, if you go on our page, not just videos, Nikki, you'll see even our memes now are getting like almost 30,000 hits.
Yep.
Because it's direction. It's telling people like, yo, here's what you shouldn't be doing. Here's what you should be doing. Here's what you should be letting happen. Here's what shouldn't be happening. I think, Moose, we did some research on people, and we're now helping people, also to figure out, yeah, you need to be around people, but what people do you need to be around? You feel what I'm saying? So way more direction. Then there's a pace that we need to go at. We're showing people like, yo, you need a success routine. Like, you just can't wake up in the day and just go for it. Like, there's a success routine you need. And then the final one is systematic. Again, we're helping people through the assessment find their own system. It's like, yo, we do things a certain way, and we're telling you you need to do things a certain way, but we're not going to tell you how you need to do it, what's best for you. But you do need a system. You do need to be a little bit more analytical in these time frames. Why? Because some of the resources we had before, some of the opportunities we had before, we don't have no more, including ET. People think I'm above this COVID situation. I'm not. We not. You remember, I don't know what percent, Nikki, but a large percent of our income came from traveling. It came from, I didn't even know there was such thing as social distancing, but we did 1,000 people, 5,000 people. I spoke to 10,000 people. I did international work. And so all that was taken from me. And so now systematically, it's like, okay, E, those doors are closed, but use a system to figure out what other doors are open and what other ways. So, Moose, this pandemic or this particular recession, again, we're way more intentional and deliberate, and we're able to lead people in 4 categories. Whereas before, I'm sure we was taking shots. I'm sure we was hitting something, but we might have been like the old Kobe was like what, 20 for 55? You feel what I'm saying? 25 for 53. Now we're like, we like 20 for 22, bruh. Like, we are way more effective and way more efficient because we're operating in a system and not necessarily operating in what somebody might call, just osmosis, bruh. We just hoping, we just wishing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Here,
the
we're here.
assessment, man, the assessment.
Here.
Hmm.
So let me piggyback a little bit on that when you brought up the events. So clearly, you being the flight attendant, like events is gone. Talking
Yeah,
like
yeah.
touching the people is
Ooh,
gone, right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh
yeah.
talk to people. I don't like using the word pivot, but that has been the word
That's been the
of the
word they
year.
use. Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Yeah.
Talk to people about the pivot that you had to make from touching the people physically to now a virtual standpoint. Like, how did that affect you, the brand? Like, just talk to the people about that process.
Well, you know what? I realized by the blessing of this assessment is that for every strength, Nikki, we have a limitation. And so what I wanted to be able to do was say, okay, maybe this is a time to address those limitations, you know? So I'll give you an example. I do go to bed, you know, and wake up kind of early. I don't get a lot of rest. I do grind quite a bit. So I kind of looked at this season as, okay, well, maybe this is the season to do the opposite. Since the opportunity to travel isn't there, maybe this is the time to get a little bit more rest. Maybe this is the time to be a little bit more strategic. Maybe this is the time to have way more planning sessions and thinking things through and being more systematic than you've ever been before. So that's number one. That was the first thing I thought about was like, okay, just because these doors are closing for you, which ones are open? Number two, I felt like I got closer to the staff. I had way more time to like get on the phone, make phone calls, way more time to Zoom, way more time like to build us because we know the doors are going to open up again. But the question is, are we going to be the same version of ourselves that we were before the doors closed, or are we going to be a greater version of ourselves when the doors open? So for me, it was like, yo, there are opportunities. It may not be the ones that you're accustomed to or the ones that you prefer, but during this time frame of pivoting, like look at the areas that and I don't know if this makes sense, guys, but it's almost a situation like let's look at Kobe, for instance. You remember when Kobe broke his leg?
Mm-hmm.
And when Kobe trained, he was actually building that leg up. But what he wasn't doing was building the other one. And so
Mm.
what happens is once he started playing again, he actually ended up injuring the leg that he didn't even injure in the first place because he had put so much on the one. And so I figured, Nikki, like, yo, you've been putting a lot of emphasis on one side of your strength. You need to look at the other side that you have not been really focusing on, which again is rest, which is reading and studying, which is planning and developing, which is strategizing. Those are the things you weren't doing. And then there's the other thing too, Nikki, like really going, okay, I hope this makes sense. Like same relationships, but more depth than width.
Right.
Because when we was on the road before, we would see each other a lot, but we was moving.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we'd be in the city, like we'd be working 2 days out of that. And then we might hook up maybe at the end of the event. And even with that, you're talking about a whole room full of people trying to catch up with each other. Now, it wasn't that it was bad, but the reality is now I can go deep. Now I can spend some quality time. Moose and I, the last couple of weeks, I think maybe on Friday, we spent maybe 15, 20 minutes not talking about business, just chopping it up on I never did that, Nicky. I ain't had no time for that.
Right.
I had no time to sit down and talk about life. You move. I wouldn't even know he moved. You know what I'm saying? Back in the day, I wouldn't even know. Like, oh, you moved? It'd been like a year later. Oh, I heard you move. Yeah, I did. Like, I wouldn't have known that. So now I'm getting an opportunity to really sit down, study all of the preferences. And now when I'm dealing with my staff and dealing with, everybody else, it's like I know how to approach them differently now because the assessment shows me whatever. I just never had time to do that before. I knew how important it was. I knew how critical it was to know Nicky's language, to know Moose's language. I just didn't have time to do it. Or let me say this. I didn't make time when things were just going phenomenal for us. But as we've had to pull back from the travel, now I'm getting an opportunity to strengthen parts of us and divisions of us that are critical that I just never made time to before.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's lessons.
Yeah,
That's lessons.
sure, for sure. Doc, I've
And,
had,
and
man,
can I
both.
say this? I'm sorry, Moose. I believe when we do come back together, this is just my belief. I believe we're gonna be way stronger and better. And also, I don't know if y'all did this, but I didn't know I was doing this, but I literally took a lot of stuff for granted.
Yes.
I mean,
Agreed.
we was on the road every, 2, 3 times. I mean, personally, I was on the road probably about 15 times
Yeah.
I'm saying 10, 15 times a week. I mean, a month.
Yeah,
But I'm saying as a group, we were together. I mean, come on, y'all, between the flight assessment, between us doing it at the property, people coming in to get trained, either our coaches that are veterans or our new trainees that were coming to the facility to get one-on-one, in-person training, whether it was church events, whether it was on the road, whether it was podcast, like we was together all day, every day.
Yep.
You
right.
feel me? And I took for granted that, we just gonna be able to get on the road, come spend time together, chop it up, eat, go to see what did we go see? Harriet Tubman
Yep.
together. Like I just took for granted. We in the theater, we done bought the theater out, we in there chilling. I took all that for granted. And so once we get back to the road, I promise you, it's gonna be like eating the last bowl of cereal, the last Captain Crunch, the last Captain Crunch in the building, So I'm looking forward though to getting back. I'm not gonna lie, I'm at fatigue right now. It's just been literally me and my wife. Literally Jada's coming in a couple of days, but for the Christmas holiday. But it's just been literally me and my wife. And while I enjoy it, it's just never been even Thanksgiving. It was just me and her. That's never happened before. So it's getting a little, it's getting a little hectic, what I'm saying? But hopefully we'll be out of this thing in about another 4 or 5 months.
Hopefully
Yeah,
sooner. Sheesh.
Yeah.
for real.